message from the Commander-in-Chief, you were required to carry out the following program, and so off I would go.
Okay.
With classes of people, you know, and it was just terrific. And one day I took my wife to sea with the officer of the watch's fiancée and the navigating officer's wife.
Mm-hmm.
So there were these three ladies on the bridge, and I said to Jean, "Would you like to take command of the ship?" And she said, "Yeah, all right. Yeah, what do I have to do?" I said, "Well, you sit in this chair on the bridge, and if anybody says anything to you, you say, 'Very good, carry on, please.'" And after 20 minutes, she said, "Is this all you do all day?" I said, "Yes, it's easy, isn't it?" And it was just marvellous. And I got the three ladies to take us back into Rosyth at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And assisted by their spouses and so on. But the point of arrival was under the Forth Rail Bridge, and so the compass on the ship's bridge had to be directly underneath the centre of the rail bridge to arrive at precisely the estimated time of arrival. And these three got it exactly right to the second.
Good for them.
So I made a broadcast to the ship's company saying, "These three ladies have just achieved what none of us has been able to achieve. The closest we could get before was 3 seconds.
Oh.
And they got it exactly right."
No. Wonderful.
So that was all very good. Being in command of a ship is just magical. And there are all sorts of different ways to do it. But my idea was, I told the ship's company when I took command, I mustered them all together and said, this fulfills my ambitions since I was 12. That was my aim, and now I'm in command for the next 2 years or so, and I'm determined that we shall have fun. We can't have fun without being in a good ship, so we have to keep it clean, and we have to train ourselves to be ready for anything. But the great idea is to enjoy ourselves, and so I have the whole ship's company with me. It was just delightful. Usually when I meet somebody who says, "Oh, I've heard about you from Joe Bloggs," I say, "Whatever he's told you, I deny it." So now I was now a lieutenant commander in command. I was the most junior commanding officer in the fleet, so I always knew where my station was, at tail end Charlie.
Okay.
And because I was getting every Tom, Dick and Harry to handle the ship and take her into a difficult berth or through a narrow passage between underwater rocks and all that sort of thing, I was getting quite good at it. And my favourite moment was at the end of a big exercise. All the Nato ships went into Rosyth, and it was blowing a force 8, gale-force, and so the aircraft carriers and big destroyers and so on, they were all having to be helped into their berths by tugs.
Okay. And
there I was, tail end Charlie, waiting my turn for some hours because there were so many ships and it was so very difficult. But eventually I was given the go ahead, and my berth lay in such a way that the wind was blowing directly onto it.
Okay.
And so there were two tugs standing by, and I said, "Just stand by." And I drove towards this berth, let go an anchor, put the wheel over, and so the wind blew us around like that, and we went alongside.
Is that the ship equivalent of a handbrake, like parking manoeuvre?
Yes, that's right. And I received a lovely signal from the Queen's Harbour Master. Nice one, Cyril.
Why Cyril?
Because nice one, Cyril was a favourite term in
Oh, I
days.
see. Okay. It was not a nickname for you or anything.
No,
Okay,
no.
that makes sense, right?
Towards the end of my time, when I still had 6 months to go, my first lieutenant, who was absolutely first-class chap, in fact, when I first took command, I said to him, "You run the ship. You don't need to consult me unless you need advice or support." And so he ran the ship and presented to me as a going concern, because I spent nearly all my time on the bridge. I was sitting in my cabin one day and waiting for the arrival of a signal which was sent out in those days every 6 months, saying the following officers had been selected for promotion. But my first lieutenant willfully disobeyed my order, was that all signals should come to me directly.
Okay.
He intercepted this signal, saw that my name was on it for promotion to commander, and there was a banging on my door, and 14 officers from the wardroom pressed in, each one carrying a champagne bottle, and boom! And
Drenched you.
I can tell you, sitting looking down the muzzles of 14 champagne bottles is a dangerous business. And they sent ashore for my wife, who came and joined in the fun. And at the end of it, when we were due to go home, the first lieutenant handcuffed me to Jean.
Okay.
So there we were with handcuffed like this, and they arranged a car, and off we went home. And because he'd thrown the key into the sea.
Oh my goodness!
And the master-at-arms was driving the car, and we were wondering how on earth we would cope with things like going to the loo.
Yeah, I was just thinking.
And he said, "Don't you worry, sir, the first lieutenant doesn't know everything, I've got a spare key." And so then I was promoted commander, and I went to the Ministry of Defence in London. I had served in the Navy for about 25 years, so I knew exactly how to run a Navy, until I got to the Ministry of Defence.
Okay.
Then I discovered that I had very little idea how the Navy was run.
Okay.
So I was on a steep learning curve, and I still managed to have a good time, because during my time there was a second Cod War, which meant that our ships were off Iceland, trying to prevent Icelandic gunboats from cutting the trawl wires of the fishermen.
Yeah.
And there were often collisions with their gunboats.
Yeah.
The Icelanders were excellent seamen, and they knew exactly what they were doing, and very difficult to prevent them from damaging the trawlers.
Right.
But they tried very hard, and we managed to stave them off. But there were lots of collisions, and every time there is a warship is in collision, it sends a report to the Admiral saying, this is exactly what happened. And so I can't remember how many, 12 or 15 different reports came through, and it was my job to vet them and recommend to their lordships what should be done. And in each case I said no further action, and the civil servants in the MOD didn't like this, because up until then, if a ship had a collision, I would be looking at it in great detail and saying, if the captain had done this, it wouldn't have happened, or whatever it was.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And so they couldn't understand why it was that I had no comment to make except NFA, no further action. And I had a long battle with them, but I won it in the end, and all the Cod War collisions were disregarded. But it was fun being involved again in the Cod War.
I'm sure.
Having been in the first Cod War.